Good afternoon, everyone out there on the interwebs. My name is Jared, and this is my channel, Mazda B3K. In this video, we're going to do an oil change on my 95 Miata MX-5. It has some valve train noise, something fierce, and I hope that this will at least remedy some of it. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so I'm going to illustrate that valve train noise or upper engine noise. Let me go ahead and see if she'll start. I still have like a phantom drain issue I'm working on. Okay, you wanna? There it goes. See how it doesn't want to crank very well? Valve train noise isn't so bad right now, but when this thing is ice cold, man, it makes a bunch of racket. So one of the easiest things to do is just change the oil. I mean, there's more involved things you can do to try to lick this. You can take the lifters out, put fresh oil in them, and do all sorts of fun and interesting things. But today, we're just doing an oil change. And I generally, when I get a brand new project car, I'm going to change the oil in it anyway, after I determine that I'm going to keep it. Or I'm actually going to bring it all the way back. And this one's running and driving, so that's kind of a foregone conclusion. For example, when that one comes alive, finally, that's going to be a while because I haven't touched it, but I'll change the oil in it as well. So, we're already up on ramps. If you don't have ramps, I suggest you get some. They're great for stuff like this. Miata sits extremely low to the ground, so you can't even slide a pan under when it's flat and level. Has to be up on ramps. In a perfect world, you would get the engine nice and warm before you drain the oil, so that way all the crud would loosen up into the oil, so that way when you drain the oil, all the crud comes out with it. But if you need to do your engine change cold, engine oil change cold, that works as well. It just isn't quite as effective as getting the junk out. But that is why we always get a premium filter. I've said this in other videos, other oil change videos, but some of the cheapest insurance you can get to keep your engine going, a premium oil filter. The more garbage that you catch out of your oil as it degrades through use, your engine's going to last that much longer. Anyway, we're going to go under and we're going to take a look at where our drain plug is, what size it is, and I need to investigate some plastic cladding down there that has been scraping and banging, see if I can't tack that up. Alright, under the car, this is the oil drain. Thinking that's probably an 18 or a 19 millimeter. As this is a Mazda vehicle, I suspect it's all in metric. Don't get this confused with your transmission drain bolts. If you look over yonder, try to keep my fingers out of the camera. There we go. That is your transmission drain bolt with that giant hulking hex right there. Don't pull that, because it's going to give you oil. This is a manual, so it's going to have gear oil in it. But that's not the one you need to drain. So let me go snag my wrenches and see what we get. Alrighty guys, I'm back. Turns out this is a 19 millimeter, fits like a glove for a crank. Alright, so now it's loose. We're not going to take it any further, obviously. We got to get a pan under here, so let me go do that. Okie doke, here is my drain pan. If you've watched my videos before, you've seen this pan and others like it. So you want to pop the bleeder so it'll glug appropriately. Take the cap off. There, it's got a little spot you can put it. This is somewhat aggravating because that plastic shield's in the way. Let's see if we can do this without spilling. And it it laughs at me and says, haha, you thought I was loose? You's a funny man. Alright, let's see. Alright, let's see what that does. Yeah, that's moving nicely. Ooh, that looks black. That looks black. Alright, I'm doing this because I really don't want to get oil over myself. So let's see what happens. Wait for it. Okay, yes. That is quite black. It's not the worst oil I've seen, so. Alright. I'm going to set this right over there. And then I'm going to go get a shop towel because I got a little oil on my fingers, but not a lot. Oil is a carcinogen, so you don't want to leave it on your fingers forever. I'm going to let this drain out, and I'll bring it back when it's done. I was hoping the oil filter was in a not ridiculous spot. Unfortunately, it is in a ridiculous spot. So you get these hoses out of the way. You can see it if it will. There we go. It's kind of in the upper middle part of the screen right there. The black cylinder sticking out from the side. It's got the detents in it. That's our oil filter. And I'm probably going to try to go at it from the bottom. I don't think you get a good shot at it even if you take that black plastic skid guard off. I'm going to look at that again. But there it is. So let me figure out how we're going to get this out. I'll probably use my filter pliers to pull it. And I'm being a bit of a dingus here to give you some relation on where that all is. This is our air intake. We are over on the passenger side of the engine, and it is directly under the air intake, sticking out of the block at an angle. And you can see it covered in shadow right now, but that's where it is relationally, because I apologize. I realized I didn't give a good description about where it's sticking out of the block. Okay guys, check it out. We're at the same vantage point we were before when I was showing you where the filter was. You see I've got my filter wrench on here, and I'm thinking this is the only way you can do it, because the subframe is in your way if you try to come in from the bottom. So even if you drop the plastic cradle that's down there, subframe's still going to get you. You're not going to get access. If you wanted to make this more clear, camera, behave, you would need to remove the plenum. So you can see the plenum is above us here. Sun's in the way, but our plenum here is in the way. And we could pull those bolts right there. We could get the plenum out of the way. That would give us a little bit more room, but not a lot more room. And let me show you why. If you look carefully down below, there it is. There's an arm that sticks out under the plenum. I know the camera's having fits here, but there's an arm that sticks out under the plenum. It comes around here to where those two big bolts are, and that's to help hold the plenum, and that's going to get in your way. Even if you were to take the plenum off. So I'm going to try this because I really don't want to pull the plenum. Plenums normally have a gasket, and if it's been on there a while, it's not reusable, and I'd have to reseal it. So let's check it out. Alright, got it out. It wasn't on super tight, fortunately, so I was able to squeeze it a bit with my filter pliers, got it loose, jammed my hand in there, spun it out. Now I did find something out. Let me show you. If you come from under the vehicle and you come from where all those spider webs are, basically, and you stick your arm in through that hole back there where all the, I think those are all fuel lines are running, you get a straight shot to where the filter is. So I presume that's how you're supposed to change out this filter, and that's what I will do in the future. What that also means, so you get better access to that, is you're going to want to lift this up with jack stands versus ramps, because the ramps get in your way. But if you had jack stands in position on either side, giving you this much lift, you could, and if you took the tire off as well, you could wiggle right in there and stick her in. I mean, I'm going to use that to get the filter back in, but it's going to be kind of a pain because ramp's in the way. That's what we're doing. So I'm going to grab my 10W30 and my filter, and we're going to start putting this guy back together. All right. Today's dinosaur filter is a Mobil 1 Extended Performance M1-108A. Pricey filter, but like I said, filters are really the cheapest insurance you got. Keep your engine running. And our dinosaur oil today is Mobil 1 High Mileage 10W30. I run 10W30 in everything I've got. Just makes it easier for me. Down here in the south, I don't have an issue doing that. If you're up north, you need to think pretty hard about that because the thicker oils will cause you pain in the winter. So keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, it's a little guy. So tiny. So since this is mounted kind of like that off the block, we're going to partially fill it with oil so the engine doesn't have as much of a gap between lubrication. We're going to loop up this seal with some oil so we can spin her on nice and smooth. I got to wiggle back under there, thread this on. I won't be able to take the camera in there because, yeah, it's going to be a blast. But anyway, that's what we're doing, and I'll bring it back. Alrighty. I figured out a view spot to put the filter on. So what I may do is the next time I change the oil on this thing, I will try to film that. I was able to see through a tiny crack, basically by closing one eye and kind of tilting my head a funny way, but I figured out how you're supposed to put this thing on now. So, yeah. Moving on. I apologize that I couldn't film it, but it was just about an impossible angle with a smartphone camera. This is our fill. I already have it loose. So, there you go. Now, I'm going to try to Bluetooth pour this. This engine only holds about 4 quarts. It only holds about a gallon of oil. So, if you've got a big 5-gallon like this, be mindful you got this little line here. You're going to go down to this mark right here. So that's empty where it says quart. That first mark on the right is about where it should be full. So let me get the camera set up and we'll pour. Alright. Let's see if I can do this without making huge mistakes. Here we go. Alright, so I'm going to check our quart mark, and you guys cannot see that at all because of lighting, but we are at about about 3.5, so we've still got a bit of pouring to do. Oh no, I was doing so good. Okay, we're getting close, so a little more and then I'm going to check oil levels. Dang. I was doing good, guys. Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. So now this is going to smoke quite nicely whenever we fire it off and warm it up. Alright. I shall direct your attention to, I'll just bring it out over to you, but the fill stick, the dipstick is behind. So here it is. Let's see, this will focus at all for you. No, let me move you into the light. Hang on. There, that'll work. Okay, now let's see if we can focus. Oh, we had it and we lost it. Here we go. So according to this, we are not full. We're in the butter zone. Okay, I really apologize that this thing's not getting it done. Come on, camera. There. So as you can see, we're in the butter zone. We're not full, but the engine is in the operational zone. So I'm going to put a little bit more oil in there, and then we'll call it a day and we'll crank it up, see what it sounds like. Alright guys, the engine's been running a few minutes, let it kind of warm up and everything, and you can hear it's a lot quieter. Well, quieter for a Z-Tech anyway. These engines are just noisy. That is one thing about them. But it is quieter than it was before. An oil change seems to have helped. Didn't completely get rid of, but helped with the noisy lifters and the noisy push rods and all that good stuff. So I'm going to call this one a win. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for the oil change in my 95 Miata MX-5. If you learned something, leave me a comment. Please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, I make the mistakes so you don't have to. I'll see you guys next time.